They say love hurts, but sometimes, well, sometimes it kills. Tonight, we're sharing some deeply unsettling stories. We're looking at individuals often called lonely hearts killers. These are predators who exploited one of the most fundamental human desires, the simple search for connection. We're talking about people who use the promise of romance, companionship, sometimes even illicit services advertised in newspapers or, online to lure their unsuspecting victims. It's really a journey into the darkest corners of human nature, places where trust is just completely shattered and lives are tragically, senselessly ended. We'll hear about a seemingly model student, a really formidable woman from the past, a figure known for giggling, whose cheerfulness masks something truly sinister, and a terrifying duo whose twisted romance spiraled into horrifying violence. Each story, honestly, is a stark reminder of the dangers that can lurk behind a simple ad.
And what's fascinating here, or maybe chilling is the better word, is how these individuals, spanning different eras, different technologies even, leverage vulnerability. The methods evolved, from print ads to the early internet, but that core exploitation of someone's desire for connection, that remains this constant, deeply unsettling thread.
Yeah, exactly. So let's begin with a man whose life on the surface seemed full of promise. Philip Markoff. He was a second-year medical student at Boston University, engaged to be married, a woman named Megan. To everyone who knew him, friends, family, the community, he was, well, a model citizen. But beneath this very respectable facade, a much, much darker side was emerging. In April 2009, Philip embarked on this horrifying 7-day crime spree, his hunting ground. Craigslist. He'd browse ads placed by women offering erotic services, respond, agree on a price for, say, a massage or something similar, and then meet them in hotel rooms. But as soon as that door closed, the act dropped. He'd pull out a gun he'd brought. His initial aim seemed to be robbery. He knew these women often handled cash.
Mm-hmm. And it's also thought there was a sexual component to it for him, a thrill from the crime itself.
Right. The media eventually dubbed him the Craigslist Killer. His first known victim was an escort named Tricia Leffler. In her Boston hotel room, she was bound, gagged, robbed. But incredibly, Tricia managed to free herself pretty quickly and contact the police. That gave them crucial CCTV footage of Philip leaving the scene. Grainy, but it was something. Then, only 4 days later, police showed Tricia new CCTV images from a different hotel.
And she recognized him.
Immediately, she identified the man. These newer images were taken just before he met his second victim, a young woman named Julissa Brisman. Julissa, sadly, she wasn't as fortunate as Tricia. Philip set up the meeting again via Craigslist, arrived with the gun, the zip ties, he closed the door, drew his weapon, started to tie her hands. But Julissa fought back. She resisted, and as a result, Philip shot her. Point blank. Now, despite being this brilliant medical student, Philip was, let's be honest, far from a criminal mastermind. He fled in a panic. He actually left Julissa's body partially out of her hotel room door, which tragically led to her being discovered just moments after she was fatally wounded.
So sloppy, despite the planning.
Very. And just 2 days after Julissa's murder, he struck again, the last time. Attempted to rob an erotic dancer, Karen Stout, also met on Craigslist. But his spree was ending. Police managed to locate his home after uncovering his IP address from emails he'd sent to Julissa. And the gun, the one used in Julissa's murder, they found it in his apartment, get this, hidden inside a hollowed-out copy of a Grey's Anatomy textbook.
Wow. The symbolism there.
It's chilling. And what happened next is just as disturbing. Philip Markoff committed suicide before his trial, exactly 1 year and 1 day after his wedding was supposed to happen. The name Megan, his fiancée, was found written on his cell wall in his own blood. He bled out after severing multiple arteries and tightening a plastic bag over his head. Just a final gruesome end.
It really underscores how the internet, the ease and anonymity it offered Markoff, kind of turned it into his personal prowling ground. It highlights this whole new dimension of vulnerability, the sheer swiftness with which he could select targets. That was unprecedented.
Absolutely. And while the internet makes finding victims, simpler now in some ways, these kinds of crimes, they stretch back much, much further. Our next story takes us way back, late 19th, early 20th centuries, to a woman often considered a kind of female Bluebeard, Belle Gunness. Born in Norway, 1859, Belle was a physically imposing figure, 6 feet tall, weighed 200 pounds, a formidable presence. And she's believed to be responsible for the murder of at least 40 people, maybe even more.
40. That number is staggering for that era.
It really is. And even before she started placing any Lonely Hearts ads, suspicious deaths just seemed to orbit around her. Back in 1884, 2 of the 4 children she had with her first husband, Mads, died mysteriously. Official cause: acute colitis.
But the symptoms?
Exactly. chillingly resembled common types of poisoning. And, adding to the suspicion, both children happened to be insured. Then, fast forward to 1900, Mads himself dies. Suddenly, on the very day 2 life insurance policies on him overlapped.
It's that subtle.
Not at all. With that insurance payout, Belle moved to Indiana, starting fresh, or so it seemed. In 1902, she marries Peter Gunness. Just 1 week after the wedding, Peter's infant daughter dies while alone with Belle. Later that year, Peter himself dies after this supposed tragic accident. Apparently, a sausage grinding machine fell on his head.
A sausage grinder.
Seriously. A coroner actually ruled it murder initially, but Belle, somehow, convinced the authorities she was innocent. Persuasive woman, clearly. Her greed just kept growing. So in 1907, she started placing ads in the Lonely Hearts section of newspapers, looking for a wealthy suitor to join fortunes. And she specifically asked these men to bring cash, to help her pay off her mortgage when they came to visit her farm. A lot of men responded, but only one apparently ever survived staying there, George Henderson. He woke up one night, saw Belle standing over him, holding a candle, just staring at him with what he called death in her eyes.
Chilling. He got out.
Immediately, fled the farmhouse, didn't even go back for his stuff, never returned. The others, they weren't so lucky. Men who arrived at Belle's farm would just disappear within days. Meanwhile, Belle kept making these large deposits into her savings account, getting richer with every vanished suitor. Neighbors saw her digging holes in her hog pen late at night, ordering large storage trunks. Suspicious stuff, but in that isolated setting.
It went unnoticed or unremarked upon for a long time.
Exactly. Then, after her mortgage was finally paid off, the farm mysteriously burned down. Inside the house, they found 4 bodies, 3 of Belle's children, and a 4th body presumed to be Belle herself.
Mm-hmm.
But this 4th body was headless, and it didn't match Belle's very distinctive, much larger build. Her former farmhand was arrested initially for the murders and arson.
But that wasn't the end of it, was it?
Not even close. The really gruesome truth came out in 1908. Family members of missing suitors started showing up, demanding answers, so they started digging around the hog pen, and what they found was a nightmare. Dozens of men's bodies, some dismembered, buried right there. They also found the body of Belle's foster daughter, Jenny Olsen, who Belle claimed was away at boarding school, plus 2 unidentified children. That headless body from the fire, still unclear. A set of teeth found didn't match Belle's dental records.
So she might have faked her own death.
That's the enduring theory. Belle herself was never officially seen again, though there were reported sightings for the next 20 years. Different states, became a legend. Her invitation to suitors, come prepared to stay forever. Well, tragically, it wasn't a lie.
It really does raise that point about the context of the time. The isolation of those farms, the relative ease of disappearing back then, the lack of, easy communication. It all allowed someone like Belle Gunness to operate, essentially hidden in plain sight, preying on the hopes of these lonely men for years.
Yeah, it's quite something. Now, from Belle Gunness, let's turn to another female serial killer who also used Lonely Hearts columns, Nanny Doss, often called the Lonely Hearts Killer, or, and this is darkly ironic, the Giggling Granny. To her friends, neighbors, she seemed friendly, jolly, just a nice older lady, which makes what she did all the more frightening. She killed at least 11 people between the 1920s and 1954.
11 confirmed. Another staggering number.
It is, and like many serial killers, her story has elements of a difficult childhood. Extremely controlling father, molestation as a teen, a head injury around age 7. Some believe that affected her mental stability. At 16, she married Charles Braggs, her first husband. It was an unhappy marriage. 2 of their daughters died unexpectedly, months apart, despite seeming healthy.
And again, suspicions arose.
Charles grew very suspicious, especially when Nanny collected life insurance payouts. He eventually divorced her, flat out saying he left because he was afraid of her. After that marriage ended, Nanny started writing to men from those Lonely Hearts ads. That led her to husband number 2, Frank. Also an unhappy marriage. One night, Frank came home drunk. Nanny apparently decided she'd had enough, laced his whiskey with rat poison. Frank died that night.
Just like that. Cold.
Cold as ice. Around this time, one of Nanny's own grandchildren also died under very suspicious circumstances. Nanny's daughter insisted she saw Nanny stick a hat pin into the baby's head. Years later, another grandchild died while Nanny was babysitting. Ruled asphyxia, unknown causes. A couple of months later, Nanny collected $500 in life insurance she'd taken out on that child.
The pattern is just undeniable.
It really is. She kept going, found husband number 3, Arlie Lanning, through the Lonely Hearts column. He died suddenly. Heart failure, they said. Then, Lanning's mother, who lived with them, died in her sleep soon after their house mysteriously burned down. Nanny collected the insurance, moved in with her sister, Dovie.
Let me guess, Dovie didn't last long.
Predictably, Dovie died mysteriously soon as her nanny arrived. It was like death just followed her everywhere. Continued with husband number 4, Richard. Poisoned, along with Nanny's own mother, who was staying with him at the time. Her 5th and final marriage was to Samuel Doss in 1953. Months after the wedding, Samuel gets sick. Flu-like symptoms. Rushed to the hospital. Nanny, meanwhile, is trying to rush collecting on 2 life insurance policies she'd taken out on him. The day he's released from the hospital, Samuel dies. Suddenly.
And that finally raised enough red flags.
Finally. This death was just too suspicious. They did an autopsy, revealed a massive amount of arsenic in his system. Nanny was arrested for Samuel's murder. She later confessed to the others too and was convicted, sentenced to life, died of leukemia in 1965. And despite the clear financial motive, she always maintained this bizarre facade. Claimed she was motivated by love, not money. Famously said, "I was searching for the perfect mate."
Which is just profoundly chilling.
Yeah.
That stark contradiction between her stated motive, this search for the real romance of life, and the consistent calculated financial gain from every single death. It really makes you question how self-deception can play a role. Or maybe it wasn't self-deception at all, just a convenient story she told herself and others. The perfect mate was just the means to an end.
A truly disturbing sentiment. Okay, so from the singular Lonely Hearts Killer, Nanny Doss, we turn now to the Lonely Hearts Killers, plural. Raymond Fernandez and Martha Beck. Also known, quite chillingly, as the Honeymoon Killers. This is a story about a partnership in crime fueled by this terrifying, twisted devotion. Raymond Fernandez was, well, he was a strange individual. He actually believed he could use voodoo to turn women into his sexual slaves, something he apparently picked up from a cellmate while doing time for petty theft.
Voodoo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's different.
Definitely. Before he met Martha, Raymond worked alone. He'd scour those lonely heart sections in newspapers, looking for the most vulnerable, lonely, often older women. He'd start relationships, gain their trust, and then just empty their bank accounts, steal everything they owned. This was the 1940s. Most victims were too embarrassed, too heartbroken maybe, to report it. Raymond was evil, no doubt. But at this point, he hadn't actually killed anyone.
Until Martha.
Until Martha. That changed in 1947 when he met Martha Beck. She was a single mother of 2, apparently fantasized intensely about romance. She posted a personal ad, Raymond answered, and she became utterly, almost pathologically obsessed with him. She abandoned her children, moved to New York to be with him. Raymond confessed everything to her, told her about his scams, and Martha, she willingly joined him.
Just like that. No hesitation.
Seemingly not. The duo started conning women together. Martha would often pose as Raymond's sister while he charmed their victims. But as time went on, Martha's jealousy just grew and grew, became really intense, especially when Raymond paid any attention to their victims. And when he started actually having sex with these women as part of the con, Martha became violently unstable. The first woman Martha caught Raymond in bed with was Janet Fay, 66 years old. Martha, just consumed by this blinding rage, smashed her head in with a hammer.
So that was the turning point. From theft to murder.
Exactly. And their depravity just escalated horribly from there. They went on to kill a young widow and her little 2-year-old daughter while staying with them in Michigan. They buried the bodies in the basement of the victim's own home.
Unbelievable cruelty.
Truly. It was discovering that makeshift tomb in the basement that finally ended their reign of terror. When the police found them, the pair confessed, almost nonchalantly, apparently. They thought they'd get life sentences because Michigan didn't have the death penalty then.
But they weren't tried in Michigan, were they?
No. Bad calculation on their part. They were extradited back to New York, where capital punishment was very much in effect. Both were sentenced to death. They tried pleading insanity, but it didn't work. The jury didn't buy it. The couple was executed in the electric chair at Sing Sing Prison, March 8th, 1951. And both of their final words, they professed their love for each other, a chilling testament to their twisted, deadly bond. In total, it's believed they murdered as many as 20 women.
The story of Raymond and Martha, it's a truly horrifying example of what's known as folie à deux, or shared psychosis. It's this rare condition where 2 individuals, usually in a close relationship, kind of feed off each other's delusions and descend to this shared destructive reality. Their final words, professing love at the very end. It really highlights the disturbing depth of that shared delusion, a dark mirror of their partnership in crime.
It really does. You know, these stories, all of them, the Lonely Hearts Killers, There's such a stark, unsettling reminder of the vulnerability we all face when we're seeking connection and the darkness that can hide behind a seemingly innocent ad or, a charming smile. That desire for love, for companionship, even just for basic human interaction. It can be such a powerful lure for those with the absolute worst intentions.
And it really leaves us, and you listening, with a difficult question, doesn't it? How do we balance our innate, very human need for connection with the ever-present need for caution? Especially in a world where deception can, and sometimes does, take such deadly forms.
It's a sobering thought to end on. Thank you for joining us for these unsettling stories tonight. We hope you found them, both captivating and thought-provoking, despite the grim subject matter. If you were drawn into these chilling tales, please do be sure to press the like button, maybe share the story with someone else who appreciates true crime, and definitely subscribe to our channel, Horror Docs, for more deep dives into the dark side. Until next time, please stay safe. And remember, the best things often happen in the dark, but so do the worst.